Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Ockwell-Smith. Welcome to my latest SOS parenting video. Today I want to talk to you about why I don't subscribe to the whole Santa myth and pretending to children that Santa is real. So there are numerous reasons. Firstly, I have to say, more importantly than anything else, I really do not recommend lying to your children about Santa as a way to try to control their behaviour. So here I'm talking about naughty and nice lists, Santa cams, elves that report back if they've been naughty, throwing fake gifts into the fire and pretending to burn them if your children have been naughty. All of these are so problematic because they all punish the child for struggling at a time of year actually that all of us are struggling, adults, children. In fact, have a look at my video from last week that tells you why kids struggle at this time of year. The other thing is obviously it doesn't look at why they're struggling. There's no empathy there. And we know that this sort of discipline, and I use that word loosely because it's such an ineffective form of discipline, doesn't improve behavior, certainly not in the long term. And even after like a few hours or a day, it doesn't have a long-term effect because you have been completely missing the issue and punishing the child for having a problem. So what you'll find is at this time of year, every time you're going to a shop or a supermarket, you'll hear loads of parents threatening their child about Santa not coming if they misbehave, because this sort of discipline just doesn't work. So don't even go there. But actually, I'm taking it a bit further today. What I'm also saying is I personally don't believe it's a great idea to do the whole Santa myth with children. So why not? Well, firstly, there's no getting around it. You are lying to them. And it is a pretty big lie as well. And I think as parents, it's really important that our children can trust us, trust that we will tell them the truth, trust that we don't lie to them. And when we're lying about Santa, it's a huge lie. So from the trust perspective, what happens when your child does find out it's not true? Well, at some point you're actually going to have to admit to them and you're going to have to tell them it's not true. And I don't know if any of you remember this as a child, but that can be really heartbreaking to learn that he's not real, to learn the magic isn't real, but also to learn that your parents have been lying to you for several years. So that's a really difficult point. But from the other point of view, so my kids have always done Santa, but I've never lied and said that he's real. And a lot of people say, well, if you don't do Santa, how is Christmas magical? And my answer to that is, you need Santa for it to be magical. You can't make it magical with family traditions and the religious side of things if you're religious, and the whole just wonderfulness of Christmas. I find it really sad that we have to do the whole Santa myth to make it magical. And I think sometimes when we do Santa with our children, it's quite an unconscious decision, first of all. We just tend to repeat the way we ourselves were parented without actually questioning it. And I think what happens for a lot of parents is they had Santa done to them as a child, and they remember how magical Christmas was while they believed in him. And then they obviously found out their parents were lying and he wasn't real. And I hear so many adults say that you just kind of like lose the magic of Christmas when you know Santa's not real. So in some ways, it's like they're living vicariously through their children. So it's like, well, if I pretend in Santa again for my child, it will be more magical. But actually what they're doing is trying to make it more magical for themselves, but they're actually setting their child up for the same issues that they had. So for us in my family, my children are all teenagers. The youngest is 14, the oldest is nearly 20. And we all still do Santa, but I have never lied and said that he was real. I've always presented Santa as a myth, as a legend. We talked about St. Nicholas and the legends behind that. And we speak about Santa in the same way that we would about fairies, unicorns, witches and wizards. So it's a great story and it's wonderful to dress up and pretend and let your imagination run away with you. But it's based on myth and legend, and people do things differently around the world depending on what country you're in. It's a great time to talk about other cultures and beliefs, but he is a myth, and it's okay if you want to believe in it. I might believe in unicorns, I might believe in witches and wizards, and that's okay. But importantly, there is no one Santa Claus that delivers presents every year. So we have a few caveats when we talk about it. We say that some parents tell their children he is real, and we know he's not, but it's important that they don't try and ruin their fun and say he's not real. So they kind of have to play along with it if they have people who believe, because it's disrespectful to be negative about other people's beliefs. But every year, you know, we do the visiting Santas. We leave out mince pies and a glass of sherry and a carrot for Rudolph every year. And I'm talking with older teenagers. And every morning, the first thing they do when they open their stockings is run down and see if the mince pie and the carrot has been eaten. Now, I'm under no illusions that I have an 18 or 19-year-old who believes in Santa, but it's part of our family tradition. And it is absolutely still magical. The other thing I would say about Santa is it can be really problematic when you have got children living in different families and some are more privileged than others. So if you live in a privileged family and you are able to buy your child several presents, many presents, or one big present from Santa, that's great. But think about the families where they don't have money and that they can't afford to buy lots of presents, or they can't afford to buy one big present, and maybe they can't afford to buy any presents at all. And how is Christmas for that child when they think Father Christmas or Santa hasn't given them anything, but they see when they go back to school in January and they talk about what everybody received, and they realise that your child got a new bike or something from Santa, and they got like a 99p bag of sweets. Does Santa like them less? Are they less worthy? So please, if you are going to do the Santa myth, please be aware of your privileged position and how other children can be affected by your child believing in Santa and thinking that they are not as worthy as your child. So the last thing to do is, well, if you haven't already gone there and you've got young children, I really would heartily recommend that presenting it as the magic and the myth of Christmas that we can all take part in. And it's still wonderful. You know, Christmas is still magical. It's so sad that we think it isn't. If you have gone down the route, though, of doing the whole Santa myth, what should you do? Now, I really don't want to come and tell you what you should do, but what I would say is be careful of your child having doubts and questioning. So quite often children, you know, are way more intuitive than we think. So they'll say things like, you know, Mum, Santa uses the same wrapping paper as you, or Dad, the Santa in the shop looks really different. You know, his beard wasn't real. Or how does Santa get to fly around the whole world in one night? Or how does he get into a chimney that's really small? Kids aren't stupid, you know, they do have these doubts and these questions. If your child is asking you these sorts of questions, I would really strongly recommend that this is the time to come clean, rather than spinning a more deceitful web of lie upon lie upon lie to try to answer their questions. They're already doubtful. There's already something in their minds telling them that it's not real. Now would be the time to come true with them. And at that point, what I would say is something like, yes, it is a myth, and you know, now you're part of the story too. So what happens is when we're young, we learn that Santa is real and we can believe in him. And it's this belief that we have as children that allows us to carry on this story and become the Santas and spread this wonderful Christmas cheer with other people. So it's really important you don't tell anybody he's not real, but now you can join in on the fun too as well. Maybe you may, if they are very upset, then maybe it may be called for that you apologise, but I would try and kind of think, how can we make this a little bit more positive too? So I think all that remains to be seen is for me to say Merry Christmas to you all. Thanks.